Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'm really privileged to stand here, and I seek for permission to allow me to request any of the participants from Uganda to stand up for recognition. Thank you so much. I'll also just kindly request to allow me ask our East African community members to stand up for recognition. Thank you so much. My name's Lilian Kamazi Mugisha, and I'm a mother of 4. I'm married, and I've been blessed with a huge family and a great organization. When I joined Unicaf, I didn't know much about it, but what pushed me was the fact that I had done a bachelor's degree, and I still felt I was being ignored, okay? You know, in Uganda, sometimes when you're doing jobs for total administration, you're looked at as a by the way. And I kept wondering why. And one thing I learned, that if you manage managers, then you are a manager. And that's why I applied for an MBA. In my family, my 2 children were also doing their university studies, and I don't know, the people in Uganda can tell you how expensive it is to take our children through school. We had a lot of debates back home. Should I take the master's? Am I really setting my priorities right? Am I not being selfish? Those were the questions that came from myself, but also from my family. We had to make choices. So we agreed, what is the best way for me to upgrade, to be competitive, to position myself in a very vibrant market like Uganda? I met a colleague from Kenya, and he said that they recently were enrolling people for jobs in one of their outlets in Uganda, and all the people who turned up were graduates, and they wanted to be waiters, okay? So you can see the competition. Just having 1 degree is no longer an advantage in Uganda. It's just like any other paper. You have to compete. So we made a decision as a family that I'll go back to school, but I'll continue being a mother. I'll have to earn a living. I'll have to do my courseworks. I'll have to support my children with their homework. I have to take care of my husband. And I had to respond to the discussion forums. So that's the type of women most Ugandan women are, but also most African women, I believe. Yeah. In my organization, many people are learned, very educated, but education can only make meaning if you can use it to contribute to another person's life. So when I took on this course, I used it to enable me improve other people's lives. I began, when I joined in 2015, I was an executive secretary to our country director. And I had been an executive secretary to many country directors. So I've lived the life of the executives, much as I'm not an executive. But I felt if I improved my education, I'll even be better than them because I've managed them, so I know them. And if I could do it with just a first degree, what about if I got a master's? And indeed, I have proved that. With only 1 year of finishing my some of my modules, about 8, an opportunity came up in my organization, and they needed someone who is vibrant, highly networked, well-educated, highly, with a lot of humane, passionate about what they do, but also highly qualified. I looked at the bit of highly qualified. I had all the rest, but I only had 1 year at Unicaf, at the Nicosia University. So I approached my director, and I told him I want to give it a go. I want to try. And he said, our organization has a policy. If you work within that organization and there is an opportunity that you think you can compete for, go for it. So I applied, and I was given an opportunity to do an interview. I did it, and I passed very well. But the challenge was on the papers. I have about 4 different papers. I have a certificate in catering, I have a diploma in secretarial science, I have an MBA, I have a BA, and I didn't have an MBA, and that was the catchword. So I realized in my country now, every other year, the stakes get higher. So probably after the MBA, I think they're going to ask us for PhDs. So they requested me to share with them my results for the 1 year I had done. And I presented them. But within those results, my first module, I had actually failed it, and I had to redo it. And the reason why I failed it, I didn't read the instructions. And for all my fellow participants, especially those who are still studying, please read instructions. Twice, thrice, I don't know how many times. I realized on my first module, I didn't click the pages that can open you to the books and the questions. And I just used to go back and go to the normal public libraries and read. But what I was reading, that's not what they had asked. And I had used my own knowledge. So I failed that paper, and when they sent me my results, I complained. I think when one of our professors talked about people who complained, I did. I said, no, you know, in my country, this is not how we study, this is what we do. So they really had to put me down politely and guided me, and I redid the paper, and I scored 95. So, and when I shared that with my director, first of all, he applauded me for not giving up, because many students, especially if you have so much to do, when you fail one paper, you give up. I know some of my colleagues I started with who actually gave up. So he applauded me, and that was also my stepping stone to the new position. So I was given the position on the fact that if I don't pass, they'll actually demote me. Not even demote me, I'll have to leave the organization. So I worked twice as hard for the last modules, and in May this year, I got communication that I had actually passed. And once I shared that, that is when I was confirmed in the position of Communications, Advocacy and Fundraising Manager for AMREF Health Africa. So the MBA that I've done is really supporting me, especially in the areas of raising money. I travel the world raising money for my organization. For those of you who know AMREF, you know what we do. We are passionate about the communities, the grassroots communities. We are passionate about the women and children, but also the men. And one thing I would encourage Unicaf to do is to get in touch with AMREF Health Africa. AMREF has a university now in Nairobi, and one of our strongest points is e-learning for health workers. And that is something I also get scared of, because actually AMREF trains midwives on the e-learning platform. So if you're a mother, you know what I mean. They talked of a tooth, but what about delivering a baby? It's even very challenging. But yeah, that's what AMREF is doing, so I think it would be a great partner for Unicaf, for this university, that now it's now fully approved by the government of Kenya. And I want to thank my tutors. I was a bit of the hothead, and I thank you so much for being so patient with me, for making me grow, for using the Turnitin. I think it's my worst friend. I had to keep checking, calling my colleagues, sending them messages. And I want to tell you all that online studies is the in thing. If you want to grow, if you want to learn, if you want to network, that is the way to go. I also want to remind my colleagues, especially those who haven't yet finished, that please look at the area where they talk about your transcript. Click on those figures. Get to know what each module weighs. That is very important. If I had known, I would probably be a first-class master's student, but I'm not because of some of those mistakes. So look at it, know how much each module weighs. Also, there is a catchphrase that is in very tiny black letters, very small fonts, that says, unless you get a 2.0 GPA, you won't graduate. That is real. So please watch out. Don't get 60s. 60s are not good enough. Thank you. God bless you. For God and my country.